That court is part of the Investor-State Dispute Settlement Mechanism, known as the ISDS, which allows companies to sue states when their profits are threatened.
The whole point about the investor-state dispute mechanism is that it runs outside the court system. It's about a special sort of law for big corporations.
ISDS is part of the TTIP, right?
ISDS is part of the TTIP.
So for most of the ordinary people, if you mention something such as TTIP, they will not understand what it is about.
Okay, well, TTIP is the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, and it's a major trade deal on the table being discussed now between the European Union and the United States. It has all sorts of implications, you know, from the food you eat, the medicines you take, the vehicles that you drive, the energy that you have, animal welfare, whether you want to keep genetically modified organisms out of your crops, you know, if the worst comes to the worst, and some of the big corporations get what they want, this really could be a potential real rollback of a lot of the very valuable legislation that a lot of people have fought over the years to get in the European Union.
Okay, we follow you.
Right. Should we do the staircase?
Supporters, on the other hand, say that harmonization of regulations will grow the European economy by tens of billions of dollars a year. So I thought it would be sensible to see the document, and Jean agreed to take me to the reading room for members of the European Parliament.
It's not open to the public in any sort of way. You only get access to the documents if the institution whose documents they are gives you permission.
Oh, my God.
So if the United States says we're not willing to let you see our documents, you don't get to see them.
It's taken a massive European-wide grassroots campaign for MEPs to be allowed to see the text of the TTIP agreement. And even now, it was proving hard to find.
That's the number that I was given.
Hello. Do you maybe know where is the TTIP room, reading room?
Yeah, because what we were told was 4C17, but obviously that's not right.
4C17, no.
No. Okay. Okay. Apparently I only got half the instructions. It's opposite 4C17.
Okay, let's try again.
Yeah, try again.
Go to the room of the dynasty.
I don't know. No, it's not that one then.
Oh, but it's opening.
In that case, then it's not the right one.
Yeah. Hello. Do you maybe know, is this the document? Sorry? No. He says we can't film here. Just tell us we will not film anymore. Is this the TTIP room? TTIP room? No? He confirms it is the room. The huge trade agreement is behind an unfindable, unmarked door with a security keypad. Okay. Thanks.
As a Minister of Finance of Greece, of one of the member states that was affected by these negotiations, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement promising that I would not reveal to my constituents, to my voters, that which I read, if I was allowed to have a look at those negotiating documents. This is preposterous. This is the annulment of the democratic process. Representatives in a representative democracy keeping the demos whom they represent in complete darkness about what they are saying on their behalf.
So why all the secrecy? WikiLeaks has exposed the TTIP and its siblings, the Trans-Pacific Partnership and TISA, a similar deal covering services. So we are going to rescue Julian Assange. At the Ecuadorian embassy in London, he explains why we only know about these agreements from leaks.
These big T3 agreements, TISA, TTIP and TPP, are kept secret because otherwise they'll induce democratic opposition in the population and they won't be possible to negotiate to conclusion. It's pretty obvious.
What do they tell us about the new global order and what are the effects on democracy?
These are the most significant plan to reorder the legal and economic structure of the West and friends, at least since the construction of Europe. The nature of the agreements is a construction of a new legal and economic bloc, an ultra neoliberal system, which will cement ultra neoliberalism within Europe and a wide range of other countries in treaty form. And treaties are very, very hard to change because you need agreement of all the countries participating in the treaty to change it. So it is the end of any other political project. It's only by violating the rule of law, by tearing up these treaties that you've agreed to, that in fact you can proceed in a different political direction.
Do you think this process could be described as colonialism, as a new way of colonialism?
Yes, it's a new multinational colonialism behind these agreements.
These trade agreements reveal hidden mechanisms through which Europe is, on the one hand, colonized by multinational companies and financial institutions, and on the other hand, colonizing itself. However, these very same forces are behind a more traditional style of colonization, which is not through trade agreements, but through bombs and wars. The US, British and French airstrikes against President Gaddafi in Libya in 2011 swept away a regime that was controlling migrant flows from Africa and released huge amounts of weapons into an already unstable region. Leaked emails suggest the real reasons for France's involvement were less than humanitarian.
Gaddafi had accumulated more than 143 tons of gold and was planning to use this to introduce an African dinar as an alternative currency to the franc in Francophone Africa. So this was a threat to French colonialist desires within the Francophone countries.
This reveals precisely how the refugees are linked to Europe's economic crisis. Far from being some kind of a natural disaster, as war or a flood, it is Europe's colonial behavior abroad that forces them to make their dangerous journeys.